Miss Marvel is the latest MCU Disney Plus show. Now this is a character that I am really only familiar with through the Marvel's Avengers video game that came out. Now, that was a bad game. However, Miss Marvel in that game was actually a really cool character. Um, she was kind of the main character at the beginning of the game, and that's when the game was actually like kind of good. And then they stopped focusing on her, and then the game became kind of bad. So, bad game, but Miss Marvel was good in it. So, going into the show, I already had a positive outlook on the character. However, I'm not familiar with any of the comics. And so, this Marvel series is a coming of age story, and as far as the MCU is concerned, it's the second Disney Plus show that's actually introducing a new character to the MCU. Moon Knight introduced us to Mark Spector, and Miss Marvel is introducing us to Kamala Khan. She's a teenage girl who's obsessed with superheroes. She's constantly daydreaming about them, and all the adults in her life are telling her to get a grip and, start focusing on reality. And a pretty big theme of the show so far is her finding herself. Kamala is very insecure, and I think the show is really setting a stage for a journey of self discovery where she learns to find pride in herself and her family and culture. And I'm really enjoying the show so far. I think it's the best thing that we've seen out of MCU Disney Plus since Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And by the way, I enjoyed Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I think, way more than most people, so that's pretty high praise for me. First of all, it actually looks really good. Some of the Marvel and Star Wars Disney Plus shows have tended to look a little rough, but since this show doesn't have a lot of action, at least not in this first episode, it just tends to look really nice. The sets look great, and they seemingly shot on location for a lot of the exterior shots. And the few times where we saw her powers, I thought they looked fine. The editing is quick and snappy, almost like an Edgar Wright film, which is a lot of fun. And there are all these fun little effects in the world, like, a doodle in a notebook coming to life, or graffiti on the wall being animated. That is also very Scott Pilgrim. There's just this youthful energy to the show, which I really appreciate. Which makes a lot of sense because the actress who plays Kamala Khan, Iman Vellani, is great and adds to that. She's charismatic, awkward, and endearing, like your character in a coming of age story should be. Apparently, this is her first role as an actress, aside from like a short film that she made, which is obviously going to come with a lot of pressure, but like I said, she's doing great. In fact, I'm officially more excited to see Miss Marvel in the Marvels than I am to see Captain Marvel or Monica Rambeau. And aside from Kamala, the other side characters are also really good. Bruno, who seems to be stranded in the friend zone, is a really sweet kid. I really like his chemistry with her, and it's just nice to see two friends that are like really supportive of one another. I also like that they're establishing that he's good with tech. I kind of imagine him becoming the guy in the chair like Ned from the Spider-Man movies. And her parents are really great as well. They're very strict and too hard on Kamala, but at the same time, you can tell that they deeply care for their daughter. And they even wanted to meet her halfway in that heartbreaking scene where she rejects their offer to go to AvengerCon. And that's real stuff too, because I totally relate with having parents that don't just fundamentally don't understand your hobbies. Like this isn't a one-to-one comparison to what happened in the scene, but I remember one time when I was listening to a gaming podcast. I don't even remember which one it was, but my dad asked me what I was listening to, and I then had to proceed to explain to him the concept of a podcast. And I had to explain to him that I was listening to people talk about video games, and I don't think I've ever seen my dad more disappointed in me. Like he was just so confused as to why I would want to do that. But what happened in the scene in Miss Marvel goes way deeper than that. She didn't just confuse her parents. She didn't just make them mad. She didn't even just disappoint them. She hurt her dad's feelings. And I feel like that might be the worst thing you can do to a parent is to make them feel like you don't value their love. Rough scene to watch, but it was easily the best one in the episode. Now, as far as like Easter eggy stuff is concerned, I mean, aside from just all the just random Easter eggs about like just the world of the Avengers, that we've known and loved, the only interesting theory that I would have is that I feel like her bracelets that give her powers are somehow going to be related to Shang-Chi. We see at the end of Shang-Chi that he was contacted by Bruce Banner, and I believe Captain Marvel was there, right? And so clearly they were interested in his rings because they were like, those rings, they're pretty cool. Should you need guidance or something? Like, I imagine that this show might end with Captain Marvel showing up and being like, hey, those bracelets you got, there's something, come with me to Miss Marvel, and we'll see what's up with them. And yeah, so I think they're probably going to be related to the Shang-Chi bracelets in some way. But yeah, aside from that, I don't know if they're. Oh well, and then there's also the end, like the post-credit scene with the damage control guys. If you remember, those were the guys that were interrogating Peter Parker and Aunt May, Ned, and MJ in Spider-Man No Way Home. I think they were damage control. Were they not? I actually don't remember, but yeah, clearly that's going to go somewhere. But yeah, and obviously that the Avenger Con scene was just filled with Easter eggs and stuff, which is a lot of fun. And I guess to maybe address some of the criticisms that I've seen of the show that I think are kind of weird. I know that there were some people out there that, watched the trailer, and I'm not sure exactly what the dialogue is about the show now that the episode is out, but I know there were some people that watched the trailer and were like, I cannot possibly relate to this. I am a grown man. I am not a literal brown Muslim teenager from New Jersey. And I've noticed that people will often say that, well, I cannot possibly relate to a character if it's not like a straight white male. But it's like, you've never felt awkward as a teenager. You've never felt misunderstood by your parents. Like, maybe you were some Giga Chad who had great relationships with your parents at all times, but I think most people can relate to the issues presented in this show. Like, these are struggles that transcend race and gender. Even when I'm watching a character go through a struggle that I've personally never gone through, that's not necessarily going to keep me from being engaged in a story. I mean, I like seeing different perspectives on things and, seeing different visions from different kinds of people. Is it a good story? Is it told well? Okay. I've never quite understood the phrase, well, I just can't relate to this. It's like, you relate to Batman? Are you a billionaire? What? It is kind of weird. There are also a lot of Miss Marvel comic book fans that are mad that they changed her powers. Again, this was before the release of the first episode. I don't know how these people feel now that the first episode has been released. I personally haven't read the comics and don't really care. But I also tend to not think that way in general. If I see an adaptation that is just fundamentally different from the source material it's adapting, even if I'm a huge fan of it, I'll just kind of accept that it's not going to be what I know and just watch it and judge it for what it is. Now, that's not to say that I can't appreciate something when it's like super faithful. I mean, if you go and look at my review of The Batman, I love how it truly feels like the Batman movie that I've always wanted. But even though, there are some weird things about like the Christopher Nolan Batman trilogy that I don't think is quite in line with at least the iterations of Batman that I know, I still enjoy those movies for what they are, and I don't judge them based on that. And it's also weird because we're talking about a comic book character, characters that adapt and change literally all the time. So, I don't know. But anyways, I thought this first episode of Miss Marvel was really solid. I'm definitely looking forward to the rest of the show. Definitely looking forward to Iman Vellani in this role and seeing her pop up in other movies. Like, I can already tell that this girl is going to become the next Tom Holland. I can't imagine, everyone not falling in love with her. But either way, let me know what you think of the show in the comments down below. Leave a like on the video, subscribe, and ring the bell. And goodbye.